For the latest updates on the Indian startup ecosystem, subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon.
With 2019 coming to an end, what a year it was for the Indian startup ecosystem. The year was marked with national elections, regulatory challenges for cab aggregators and the Indian e-commerce players, and an unfavorable angel tax system which caused quite some debate with Indian startups. Having said that, with all this happening around, funding in the Indian startup ecosystem didn't lose any steam. Your Story research shows that in 2019, Indian startups raked in close to $11.10 billion in equity funding across 830 equity deals. Now, this isn't much of a change since last year when Indian startups had raked in close to $11.38 billion in equity funding. An important thing to note is that this number does not include startups which, although were started by Indian founders, are now headquartered outside India. When it comes to debt funding, Indian startups consumed considerably less debt this year. In 2019, Indian startups raked in close to $814.8 million in debt funding, which is a 41% drop since last year, when Indian startups had raked in close to $1.38 billion in debt funding. Important thing to note is that this year also saw close to 134 exits, and close to 9 Indian startups went on to become unicorns in 2019. This year, late-stage deals raked in close to $4.54 billion in funding, while early-stage deals cornered close to $2.32 billion in funding. The rest was raised by other deals. Now, what's interesting about this is that the funding value which is raked in by early-stage deals this year has increased by almost 60% as compared to last year, while the funding value which has been raised by late-stage deals has remained more or less the same. So, which was the top city when it comes to funding in Indian startups? Your Story research shows that in 2019, there was a close brush between India's startup city, Bengaluru, and India's national capital, Delhi NCR, for the top spot. While Bengaluru startups raked in close to $4.30 billion in funding, Delhi NCR startups continue to show their dominance on the funding charts while raking in close to $4.33 billion. When it comes to funding volume, Bengaluru was a clear winner, with startups in the city clocking close to 273 funding deals, while startups in Delhi NCR clocked close to 245 funding deals in 2019. After Bengaluru and Delhi NCR, there came in Bombay or Mumbai, which was clinching on to the third spot with close to $1.03 billion raked in by startups in the city. Well, when it comes to the top sector which raked in the maximum funding in 2019, it does not come as a surprise that fintech led the way. In 2019, startups in the financial technology and the financial services space raked in close to $2.57 billion in funding across 103 deals. Well, after fintech came in transportation and mobility, with the likes of Ola Electric, Bogo and Bounce raising funds this year. A total of $1.05 billion was put in the sector this year. After fintech and transportation and mobility came in e-commerce and logistics, which raked in close to $1.04 billion and $944.6 million in funding respectively. When it comes to the top 5 fundraisers of this year, leading the way was India's payment major Paytm, which cornered close to $1 billion in funding in November. Then comes in B2B e-commerce unicorn Udaan, which raked in close to $585 million this year. India's very own cab-hailing giant Ola this year was not just spreading wings in international territories, but also raked in close to $514 million in funding. Ola's very own electric subsidiary, Ola Electric, not just became the fastest unicorn this year, but also cornered close to $306 million in funding. Finally comes in Indian eyewear brand Lenskart, which raked in close to $286 million in funding in 2019. Well, when it comes to the top investors of 2019, Sequoia Capital, Accel, Omidyar Network, Matrix Partners India and Bloom Ventures was actively spotting and looking at deals and investing in Indian startups. But what was worthy to note was the comeback of the Tiger. Tiger Global Management this year was making active investments in the Indian startup ecosystem and investing in a startup almost every week in 2019. That was some of the trends around funding in 2019. My name is Tarush Bhalla and here's wishing you all a very happy new year from the Your Story team. A special shout out to our wardrobe sponsors, Uncuffed. I'm gonna see you next year, jotting down trends of the Indian startup ecosystem and the funding which goes around it. Until then, stay safe, stay good, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more such videos.